Okay, all right. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you for joining with us today. Firstly, I would love to uh, have two things actually. Happy Women's Day as well as Happy Holi for all the folks who are celebrating the colors of festival. And thank you once again uh, for joining in the session with your busy schedule. So today our session Salesforce Data Cloud, Web and Mobile Connectors. For the past few sessions, we covered many of the connectors. Now we would love to cover mobile and web connectors. People who doesn't know me, myself Anindra, I'm a Salesforce MVP and a Chief Technology Evangelist. I'm a Salesforce and Velocity AWS Enterprise Architect. I was leading multiple groups in Singapore as a trailblazer, and I'm a marketing champion as well. So before we, start moving into the connectors, the web and mobile SDK connectors, right? So in our earlier days, as I'm one of the web developer and mobile developer who I personally developed 6 to 7 mobile apps and publish in App Exchange. When I was working with mobile apps, so I have two level of design. So one with I would leverage Salesforce Mobile SDK, which is provided with the complete suite of Cardova plugins and Smart Store functionalities, which include the Salesforce SDK bundle of smart registration panels and everything. Like the SDK does all my job. The one thing what I can do is to configure and design some authentication, and on top of, if my customer requested for some more requirements on the panel designs and anything, that I can do it in terms of functionality and everything. So my older days SDK provides all the controllers for me to design the mobile app as well as the web apps. Now, if we work with Data Cloud, so the Data Cloud, how Data Cloud works is Data Cloud consumes the data from mobile and website through an SDK, which we're calling as Interactions SDK. So that supports a different kind of functionalities. One with its faster time to value, because once you leverage an SDK, as I told, it's half of the job is done by SDK. So the rest of the job that we need to done in terms of connecting your Salesforce application and connecting your tenant specific endpoint to authorize the applications, and then design your data model, capture the events from mobile, and capture JavaScript. We can build some events type, different kind of an events code, which is I can showcase in a couple of slides what kind of JavaScript code that we need to ingest inside our SDK in order to capture the events from mobile and websites. As I said, fast time to value. The other one is to remote configuration. So as your market strategy evolves, updating rules for the data collection and as a personalization. So you know the concept of sitemap. So the same concept which is works in mobile and web events as well. So just give me 1 second. Let me stop my. Yep. Sorry. So the same concept, it works when anyone working with personalization, marketing cloud personalization platform. So we have a concept of sitemap in order to build a sitemap to capture the events of mobile and website without need to redeploy your websites, right? So because just a plugin of JavaScript controller, we need to ingest that into your website headers, and then it automatically capture all your personalization, the user behavior data back to your personalization platform. So the same concept, nothing much. You just need to design sitemaps for us to, because the sitemaps code, which comes with inbuilt of SDK, where you can go and then leverage the same code with different components. I can showcase the components of ready-made components available for sitemaps, which you can integrate to websites. All right. So the other thing is shared data model. So when you're integrating your data cloud with the websites, it always supports the standard data model for a data collection with data transforms that seamlessly handles each and every module. Those modules, we can talk about it in later. And the other thing is, like, we have, when anyone works with Interaction Studio, which is a personalization platform, you have an Interaction Studio launcher, which you can, kind of a Chrome plugin, where you can go and then, inject that plugin into your Chrome, and then you could just launch your complete personalization platform for design your campaign rule sets, and you could see your sitemaps, and you could design your profiles and unify your profiles and segmentations as well within the personalization. So the same level of concept we have. So we have our interaction SDK launcher, the convenient website tagging. We can leverage that, and then we can launch the visual editor inside the Chrome extension. So if anyone want to see the steps of how we could set up the Salesforce Interactions SDK, so we have our a Data Cloud URL where it'll talk you about each and every step and how you can connect SDK in order to capture your web events to Data Cloud. So there are different 4 steps are required in Salesforce Interactions SDK. One with you need to set up the Salesforce Interaction SDK. So there are some steps which are required here. And each and every step, there are some personas have been developed. It means like the CDB admin has to take care of this step, and data aware specialist has to take care of this step, and developer has to work on the respective SDK, and then you have to collect all the data streams, and which include the respective different kind of an activities that what you need to perform at time to time. And after that, what he has to done is to update the website sitemap to customer data platform, which is nothing but a data cloud. So I can showcase all these steps step by step. So this is the URL. If anyone wants to see how you can set up the Interaction Studio Interactions SDK for data cloud, I'm just pasting this. You can probably use it your reference as well. No use. No Interaction Studio is not required. Interaction Studio is not required. This is Interactions SDK. Yeah. So there are 2 kind of scenarios, right? Because a person who has an Interaction Studio, so we have 2 level of things, right? So if you look at our fundamental data cloud principles, so the way they have the system has been designed is, so in your data cloud, you have different kinds of connectors. So you have a connector for web events to capture web events to connecting with websites. You can capture your mobile events as well. At the same time, it gives one more connector, which is Interaction Studio. Interactions, which is nothing but a personalization platform of MC, right? So they have a connector directly can connect Data Cloud Interaction Studio to capture all the events of Interaction Studio platform, irrespective it is a mobile or web. Because if you Interaction Studio, you work with Interaction Studio where you design a mobile campaign and where you design your web campaign. This is a web campaign. You design one your mobile campaigns. So these campaigns where you inject your beacon. So when you inject your beacon, so what will happen is it will automatically captures all your events into Interaction Studio, right? So here, while capturing your beacon, so on top of the most functionalities, you design sitemap as well to capture some more event interactions based on the requirements of the customer. So both leverages sitemap concept. So here, this is one concept where the events will flow to MC, the Interaction Studio, the personalization platform, and then later we can leverage Interaction Studio connector to bring all the events into Data Cloud. So that is one way. Because if you are if you have a platform called Interaction Studio, then typically you design this model. You go with this kind of an operation. Let's take an example. If you don't have Interaction Studio, so ideally you can't be able to purchase Interaction Studio, or the customer don't have Interaction Studio platform. So the ideal way is to these 2 connectors we have in Data Cloud, where you could leverage Interactions SDK in order to connect both the devices. You can leverage Interactions SDK. So the Interactions SDK, the same kind of a concept with the sitemap. So you could design different kind of events in sitemap. So within the SDK, the sitemaps and everything has been designed. You could just leverage those SDKs which includes different sitemaps as well. I'll showcase what are all the predefined codes available for you to capture those events from websites and mobile events as well. I hope you understand. All right, so let's go to, yeah. So when you look at Salesforce Interactions SDK, the one which I've told, so the Interactions SDK where it could the Data Cloud, and it's a concept of personalization modules as well. Because this SDK will help you out for you to design all your interactions to capture all the events which they're using a streaming APIs. And through that APIs, because the SDK by default they'll use a streaming APIs, and through that streaming APIs, the streaming data will be feeding into Data Cloud. funny, what if or the customer has both iOS and web mobile campaigns? It's a good question, Lakshmi. So if both have both, so as a person like me, if I have both, I choose Interaction Studio. So you can look at the comparisons here, the capturing behavioral data via Interactions SDK. So if you look at a person has a Salesforce Data Cloud plus Interaction Studio. So in your case, Lakshmi, so the person has both. So as a person, what I do is, as exactly they said, they can leverage the e-commerce sitemap, because this sitemap is a complete instrument sales for the storefront, which you could capture all the event data model, the compatibility and everything. So what it does is it'll ingest all the data from Interaction Studio, and then it will be feeding the data into Data Cloud using Interaction Studio connector. Right. So if the person only have a Salesforce Data Cloud and doesn't have Interaction Studio, so what he is using is, so he just leverages the same SDK, but what he can do is he'll update the sitemap with the unified data model, and then he just leverages that for capturing data into Data Cloud. So it's exactly the same model, but the only thing is, like, if a person has iOS, the person don't have an iOS, but both the systems ideally use the same kind of a concept, the sitemap concept. So he has to understand what is unified event data model. I'll go a little bigger. So when you ever thought about, when we're talking in all our sessions, we have a different kind of a data model for Data Cloud, which is completely built with the underlying principles of CAM and data lake architecture. So if you look at our unified event data model, so especially this has been designed for web and mobile events. And it is exactly the same. It's not a rocket science, because it's exactly been designed with a complete data cloud data model. So this data model provides a customer with consistent data model across the Salesforce Data Cloud, because what it does is, when you start doing a integration with mobile or website with Data Cloud, so what it does is, it has the complete adoption of a product that can be ingested with, or it can be compatible with the website and mobile data as well. Because why we are doing this is because this unified event data model consumes and it collects all the events of and it captures all the events of person. Apart from person, what it does is it will capture the behavioral data of the person, because people who comes to the website and then he's known user, unknown user, so he can browse all the data of your website. And then these are all calling, why we calling all these are events on the interactions. These interactions where you can go and then feed the data into a respective data model, which is designed using Data Cloud, a unified data model for a Salesforce Data Cloud, which we are calling as unified event data model. So this data model is so flexible, not only to meet the current state of architecture, but it always gives a lot of other requirements to, because it's a foundation to be set for further execution of the entire operations. If you look at this, what is the fundamentals of data model for unified data event data model? So what it does is, it has 5 to 6 tables, which is quite significant to feed the data from websites and mobile events. The user table, because when a person comes to a website or a mobile, and we really not sure the person have been registered with us or not with us, so that person we're calling as unknown user. So that we're calling as a profile data. So that data is ideally going to inserting into user table, right? So the other things, identity. So this identity as a table for identifying the person, which contains a user profile and which meets about the identity types, whether this person using any other his area of interest, or his specialty, or his type of nature, his browsing ideas and his browsing events and all this stuff. So we just need to find and identify what is his primary uniqueness of whether he's leveraging email address or is using mobile number for logging into the platform, how the platform design. So all this thing which can be leveraging inside identity objects. And the consent. So the consent, which describes the representation of the person consent, how many number of products he would love to use, and what are all the consent structure that he would like to adopt for inside the Data Cloud. And interactions, which complete the behavioral data of the person. All the data of the interactions has been storing under different catalog objects, category objects, and each and every catalog and category object has been designed using using the same concept of interaction studio that we will talk about in the next slide. And we have a catalog object, which defines the identifier that defines the configuration of each and every object specific to the customer's business. So it's like, which product you clicked on, which product you viewed, what kind of, what kind of device that you have been clicked on, what kind of details that you have been captured. So all this kind of an affinity, kind of entire details will be captured under your catalog objects. So these are all the things. One with a different kind of, you can look at how the code look like inside your data SDK. So there are different kind of snippets of code, JavaScript controllers and the sitemaps available for you to ingest and leveraging inside your SDK. So if I know some of you are really familiar with Interaction Studio existing data model. So there's a concept of action and item action where you leverage those for your complete flexible and versatile concept called interactions. So these are all the two tags called action and an item action, which can captures the respective behavioral data of a person. Will capture all the data from a sitemap. So what it does is it has a different kind of classes and subclasses to be involved, which include the catalog object interactions, cart interactions, order interaction. So these are all the so these are all some of the code snippets which you could leverage for you to ingest into your SDK, and then you can call and you can directly leverage for your internal SDK, and then you can capture all the events of the respective catalog objects, cart, abandoned cart scenarios, and if any person places an order as well, you can capture those data from your website and you can feed the data into Data Cloud as well. If you look at the catalog object interactions, so it describes a way for each and every individual can interact with an item in catalog. Because if you go to any other website, so you have an option to have different kind of a menus. Each and every menu, there is a categories and catalogs available. You can click on a catalog and then you can browse all the item, right? If you look at any website for e-commerce, what you do is if your preference is to go and then search with the television, so you go to the television, inside television tab, and then within the television, you can see different kind of items, the products, and which include the product bundles, the brand of the product, what is the quantity of the product. So all the respective interactions, what you can see in the code, what we written the same code product, the respective product ID, the respective attributes of the product, like product name, category of the product, color of the product, SKU details, and the related catalog objects with sizes, the quantity and everything. So you could leverage this interactions name with the view catalog object as a definition, and you could design all these things inside your SDK. You can leverage these classes as an SDK, and then you can capture all these event details from a catalog object interaction perspective. When coming to cart interactions, so there is a concept of a person is really interested to purchase a product. So we have two options where a person can add the cart and he remove the cart. So adding all these line items, so you have different snippets where you can use send event interaction, and you can leverage add to cart interaction to capture all the line items of the cart, and then you could just send the data back to Data Cloud. We have another called order interactions. When person completes the order, so this order data will travel back to Data Cloud, and the different kind of interactions you can see under the different kind of interaction classes here. The purchase is the one which we are leveraging for a method that stores the data of the respective order, which include the ID of the order, total value, currencies, and the line items which is brought under the order. It will automatically capture all the line items with respect to the quantity, price, and attributes as well. So this is one more interaction of SDK. And the most important, user identity. User identity has two types. One with, if you look at this web connector, right? So send event as always used to send the events into Data Cloud. So if you look at the user under the attributes, the profile data, which include email, first name, last name, mobile number. So what it does is the profile, all these interactions will comes with the profile data. It'll collect all the data and then will be properly send back to Data Cloud as well. So if you look at this profile events data in the web connector, so the schema has been designed in such a way that these are all the attributes which can map to different kind of consent objects in Data Cloud. Like you have contact, consent point email, consent point address, consent point phone, and the individual object as well in Data Cloud. So once the use profile data has been ingesting into Data Cloud, so you could leverage all the other tables of Data Cloud inside other tables of data cloud, and then you could design your data model as well. It's a question. It says JavaScript only, Lakshmi. So in sitemap, we have a different concept of a complete, it's just a JavaScript, there's nothing else. So this is one more interaction, user identity. And now when you talk about the concept of anonymous versus known versus unknown profile, right? So if a person like me, I don't have a login for the website, but I'm landing at a website which is anonymously. I'm browsing all the different kind of activities inside the one of my website. So I have an option where if you look at, I have inside one of my sitemap, I have designed with onset anonymous ID. You can look at the onset anonymous ID, which is listening the respective details, who's the person has been landing into our website with the interactions. And then you can see what kind of send event details you need to send, because SDK not only captures a known user profile data, but it always captures unknown user data as well. Because for profile, the person who logged in, you have the details here. If the person doesn't log in, you have an option which is anonymous as an attribute, which we can define one, and then we could pass the blank values for rest of the details, and then we could send back to data cloud. So if you look at data cloud, what we are targeting to do is, we have an identity. This is an object where we're going to design inside your web SDK, and then we can feed the data into data cloud. Once we get the source data fields from website, this is one of the identity object, kind of identity XML. So we can look at customer ID and all the details, what we mapping with contact point email for email addresses, contact point address, and the individual table in data cloud, where this is the, if you look at individual table, is one ID which is created by custom. This is not a standard field. This is the new custom field which we design under the standard data model of individual. So we map is anonymous, the anonymous attribute with the custom attribute, which is designed under standard object of individual. So like this, you have to design and capture the unknown and known event data from data cloud, from web events to the data cloud as well, right? So the most important thing is consent. So if a person is really logging into the platform, and then he or she has been really wanted to provide some certain level of consent, because nowadays people are coming with two set of concept. One with cookie management, the other one is like accept the consent and the privacy policy. The other one is a consent, because there's two are the most fundamental marketing things that everyone needs to be implemented. In terms of consent level, so Salesforce Interactions SDK provides website developers the ability to manage the consent with the event type consent log. Initially, it was not there, but this consent, which is quite recently, has been implemented for the last couple of years. So this consent has an event type consent log. What it does is, so users going into the website, and as I said, there is a cookie kind of a concept, the same kind of a concept where the users can, we can show a pop-up. The pop-up will produce, would you love to have a consent for so-and-so details, or you would like to opt for consent is yes. Then you can automatically capture the consent of a person, and then you could send this consent back to your data cloud for us to track all these events of whether he has been opted in for certain event, what is the purpose of the consent that has been captured. So you could design those, and then you could send the data back to data cloud, so that this information can be useful for the marketers to send communications to the customers as well. So it's very important. Is consent is one of the event type as consent log. On the previous slides, how to different anonymous customers will be differentiated. On the previous slide, how two different anonymous customers will be differentiated. So in this, right, I mean, it's one customer is anonymous is one. So the same thing, you will get one more loop, Lakshmi. So if a two people comes, like, the event interactions SDK will send the one more event with the same sort of, it's very quick, right? Because when person landing into it, the interactions will captures within the 10 seconds of latency, and then will be send the data to data cloud. It is showing one, but if you see, it's a big file. It's a big file of your JSON file. All right. So now look at how we can set up the mobile and web SDK. We can showcase on a step-by-step process. If anyone want to set up the same thing, if a customer don't have a personalization platform, I would request and recommend to follow the same steps so that you should really go and then get succeed. And I would request to leverage all those SDK so that you could use the ready-made interactions, sitemap code available, a JavaScript controller code available, where you can directly inject those codes into your website and put that complete sitemap into your website, a separate section of area, so that automatically can capture all those events. So now let's look into our web and mobile SDK setup. So the step number one, there are different kinds of personas, as I said. So in order to set up the website data into CDP, you have three personas are required. One with CDP admin, the other one with website developer, the other one with data specialist. So what step one is going to do, step one is to a CDP admin will register the website. What he does is he'll create an app inside the CDP admin, and then he upload the schema. The schema is really important. That's where your data model. Schema will provided by the developer, because he's the one who written the code and he's the one who map the attribute to the right object level interaction. So he'll give you the schema for each and every interaction, whether it's orders capture schema or profile schema, individual schema, or abandoned cart schema, or any other behavioral event schema. He'll provide all the schemas. You don't need to worry as a CDP admin. He'll provide all the schemas. So once he uploads the schema, the third point is, as I told you yesterday, any system that you're connecting data cloud with third party, whether it's a website, anything, you should have a trusted policy between both the sides. That has to be done through a CDN URL, because some of the the content delivery network data also will pass from websites, mobiles to data cloud, right? So what you have to do is you have to go to you have to share your CDN URL. You have to design your CDN URL inside data cloud, and then you have to provide that CDN URL to respective website developer, so that he'll ingest that CDN URL to the sitemap. The same concept. I mean, the Interaction Studio, what do you work? The same concept, nothing else. So the step two, the persona would be website developer. So what website developer does is he'll follow the website SDK documentation, and then he'll add the CDN tag to the website, and then load to unified web SDK. And after that, he optionally leverage the Chrome extension if they want, and then you can connect, you can launch the visual editor, and then you can do all this sitemap thing as well, and do immediate testing as well. If you want, you can do immediate testing as well. And the next thing is he'll send the complete schema and updated sitemap and the schema to CDP admin for him to load the data model inside data cloud. So the next thing is a data specialist. What data specialist does is, once you get the schema, data specialist can go and then he'll create data stream, and then he'll connect the website, and then he'll map the data stream to our data model. So once that is done, the step three, a CDP admin will upload the sitemap shared by website developer to the app as well. So I mean, just like a series of steps, and then you should just follow the same steps where you can get succeed to connecting your CDP, connecting your website and mobile apps to data cloud. So if you look at now, diagrammatic screenshot, the step one. So he'll go to the website for mobile sources. So what he can does is logging into data cloud. So once I'm logging into data cloud, I'm going to my setup, customer data cloud setup. So here in the left-hand side, the left side navigation, I do have an option, website and mobile apps. Just click on website and mobile apps. So for a demo purpose, what I'll do is I'll just delete this events, because there are some dependencies, remove them to the delete. So this is one of the data stream which I've connected on. So let me delete this data stream as well. I'll showcase what we have done. Now I'll go back to my website and mobile. I'll just delete this. Okay, it will take some time to delete the process. Meanwhile, I'll delete other one. Yeah, I've deleted web events, and I'll delete the mobile events as well. Okay, I just need to wait for entire deletion purpose. But ideally, you can look at your data streams currently. So when a data specialist will come here, and then he'll go and then create a new data stream for website and mobile. So you click on new under the data stream option, and then he has an option to see only the connection has been established with mobile app, because currently this has been only the mobile app has been connected. So that's why you see the mobile app inside your data stream. Nevertheless, what you can do is you can go and then delete this. Yeah. Now I've deleted, and you can see the same here. You can't see the mobile app here from the data streams option. So in the data stream option, you can't see any other sources of website and mobile here. It's completely blank now. So now what you can do is I can go and then I'll create a new website. I would love to connect my website, and I would love to feed the data from website to data cloud. So the concept is just click on new, and then you can just provide the connector name, real-time mobile events or real-time web events. So you can choose the connector type, whether you would love to connect to web app or mobile app website, and click on save. So once you click on save, so as you've done your job, so there's another concept of CDN. You can go and then add your respective website, the website name under CDN. So so currently this has been not connected with fully, but ideally you have to go and then just enable the CDN access for your typical Salesforce Sales Cloud, but it's not enabled here. But as a step 2, you have to go and then enable the CDN. So once you enable the CDN and then hand it over to the developer, so you have to upload the schema. So the schema which contains, let me upload schema and then I'll come back. Yeah, so I uploaded the schema file. So the schema file has a complete JSON format. So if anyone wants to try connecting the JSON file, because it has a 9 keys which contains a device ID, device event type, provider, purpose, session ID, status, and all. So if you wish to see the sample JSON file, which has to be configured by developer, so you can go to this respective developer documentation. You can click on this web and mobile application connector, and then you can see a sample definition file or a sample to look at the sample connect status for your mobile apps to customer data platform. So if you look at the same concept, look at the JSON schema. So you can update the schema and you can upload the schema as well. So where is this? So the schema available where you can download a sample schema for a website, create a website. So what it does is we have a different kind of a schema available, but I'll showcase once again. So the schema, how it look like. I'll just upload the schema. So I have schemas available for, yeah. So this is one of the schema which has contains more than 53 fields, because this is one of my mobile schema which I've connected to the website, because it has the same kind of a JSON structure. And this has the event ID as a primary key. And then this has to be defined in a JSON file. Once the web developer given you the object JSON file, because this is part of the mobile engagement data, but I'll just use the device engagement. I'll just use the website now, the schema. So this is the schema that have been connected, one with consent engagement, the contact point email, contact point phone, identity, party identification, the cart item catalog, order engagement. So you can see multiple events that this has been comes with, and you just need to select which event this entire field has been belonged to, because this is This is the identity or party, because it's the event data, the event type provided purpose. Ideally, this has been comes with our the engagement data, the consent and engagement data. Just click on save. So the schema will automatically save here, and then you're ready with the done your schema. So now what you have to do is you can go and then create a new data stream here. You can just click on new, and then you can see the website, the one which you've connected. Just click on next. So all the event here has been available. So you can look at the real-time web events. So you have engagement data, card data, catalog data, the consent data, contact point email, contact point phone. Look at the field count for each and every data. So what I can do is I'll just leverage my contact point email data, or you can leverage identity data as well. You can just choose how many number of events you would have to capture from an SDK, and then click on next. And within the identity, you can see a number of fields has been available, the session ID, first name, last name, and all, and then click on next. And you could see this has been a category under profile data, and then click on deploy. So once you click on deploy, so it automatically create one data stream under real-time web events, which is identity data model, which contains the source fields and everything. So once you've done this, the last one starts still showing as none. You just try to refresh, and then it'll showcase different kind of fields, whether it's in progress or whether it's been completed, and how many number of records has been captured from website to this this data cloud. And I can just capture this. It'll take minimum of 15 minutes. You can see it's the status changed to pending. It'll take some time to capture and complete the status to load the records from one of your website. And now what you can do is you can go and then start the data mapping. So in the data mapping, you have your all the fields of the person, the identity of the respective website user. You can go and then select an object, and from here you can select the identity as an object, or you can go ahead with the individual object. So here you can choose an individual object. Click on plus and then click on save. So here I've been individual. I'm just connecting my entire identity data to an individual object inside Data Cloud. So here I can see my the device ID, the primary keys and all. So here what we can do is you can just match this with first name to the first name. And then you can match us with your individual ID to a device ID. And you could capture your details about last name or name. And you could see different kind of a source tables and the event ID. To look at the category, you don't have any category. And you could see the any other fields which you could capture as a part of an individual data that you capture. You capture the first name, last name, and the device ID details. So if you would like to capture is any is anonymous kind of a data, so you could go and then create a new custom field inside your standard table. You look at add new field. You just click on add new field. Take some time to load. So it's taking much time to save. Not sure. I think it's fast actually. So you have a concept of add a new field inside your individual table as a custom field, and then the same concept that what we created here, the is anonymous, the one which we captured this identity event data to your individual table is anonymous. You can capture these anonymous as well. right? So just give me 1 second. Yep. So the same concept that what we have designed now. So this has been captured, but it's been still, it's loading. Let me refresh it. Ooh. Still loading. Okay. So ideally, yeah, you can just map the respective source data to a data model entities inside Data Cloud. And then you could design the entire data structure for you to leverage further for insights, the segmentations, and your data actions, your activation targets, and everything. So that's the concept of how you can bring the data of the mobile app data into Data Cloud, because the same concept. Now I have leveraged on individual data. Now you have identity data. Now you have a bunch of data available, like card data. If you look at the same data stream, so you have plenty of data is available. If you look at your data stream, the one which you have connected with the website, and then you can choose a different set of objects here: cart item, catalog, consent, order data, order item data, party data. So you can all the data is available. And you can just leverage this data in order to design your data model and then map to your Data Cloud objects. And then you could just design the data orchestration, and you could leverage the same Data Cloud data model further for your identification, segmentation, and activation as well. So that's how it works for websites. I don't know, somehow it's not doing it. Data mapping has been done, 5 fields have been mapped. We'll see if it has been created. Still loading, yeah. Yeah, so here you can add a new field as well. So you can put the new field as is anonymous, and then choose the data type as which one data type you would like to leverage. So this is contains a number, because we are passing number 1 or 2, and then click on save. Now you created one is anonymous, a custom field for a standard individual Data Cloud object. And from here, should have ability and the flexibility to connect. You can connect with your is anonymous, the custom field, because there is already a field is anonymous. I've just created one. So you can just capture this with this, and then you can just feed the data from that. And then it's already there, but this data model has been completely different, but you can satisfy it. So you could just leverage this, and then you can map the respective source data to your Data Cloud data model. So this is how you can feed the data from websites to Data Cloud. So there's plenty of work has to be done. One with you need a developer of a website developer who can provide all your JSON structure for each and every object. And the other one, yeah, it's an internal Data Cloud admin who design all the structure and then design the data model for you based on your client need. And then you can design the complete data orchestration for the website. So the same concept. Currently, if you look at this, so you're connected with the website data into our data stream. Currently, you can see under here, you can only see the website data because you connect only the website to capture the events. Now, if you look at the same concept of capturing mobile data, so what you can do is you can go and then create a separate connector for your website, your mobile. You can go and then create a new, saying that real-time mobile events. Choose a mobile app as a connector app, click on save. And then you can just upload your file from your schema. So this is one of the mobile event schema that we designed for one of the demos, which contains a different kind of headers. You can see within the mobile, you can see the event ID and the primary key, and then you can see the geofence status of the mobile, because if someone captures the location, it captures the location as well, the page views, the service status of a device, and you can see the device details as well inside your system. So once you capture this under the mobile engagement, because this CSV designed only for the mobile engagements, and then click on save. So once you click on save, you have to go back, and then in the data stream, you can click on new, and then you can see the respective mobile event the mobile app, what I've designed, and then click on this, and then click on next. Now you can see the mobile engagement data, the 53 field count that what have been uploaded, a JSON structure. So now here you can see the mobile engagement data, and then look at all the fields that what you wish to have. If you want all the fields, you can just select it and then click on next, and then click on deploy. So the concept is like, if you want to update the schema, in the later point of time, so what you can do is you can go back to your respective mobile engagement, you look at your respective mobile events, and then you have to update schema. Just click on update schema. Then you have to upload the new file. Once you upload the new file, then automatically the schema has been updated with the data, and then you have to go and then you don't need to create a new data stream again. Once you update the schema, what you can do is you can come here and then click on sync schema. So that every time you don't need to create a new data stream for that event. You just click on sync schema, that automatically the updated schema will be updated here. So this is how we can be able to ingest the data from a mobile events to data cloud. Some question. This is to add new fields or events. Yes, correct. Yeah, that's right. If you want to add more fields, if you want to delete existing data scheme fields, you could just delete that. And more events like abandoned cart data, order data, you could just add all these parameters into one schema and then you can upload it. Now you can see all of 56 fields have been created. Now the same concept where it will take some time to load the data, about 15 minutes of time. And we can go and then start the data mapping for the respective data stream and then design the data model, and the model will becomes and then store under data model here. Because just now we created one data model for mobile, the website. So the same data model which you can see under one of your data model here, because it's not mapped, ran. Yeah, it didn't run. It didn't. Nope. No data stream of the mobile or anything. Yeah, so typically this is how both you can capture the events of mobile and website into data cloud, and then you can see the data of both mobile events and the web events. Currently, we're not connected to the live websites and mobiles, but eventually this is the process of doing for connecting any of your mobile and website data to data cloud. So let's go back with presentation. So the same one what I've explained. So the same thing has been done. They've connected a website and then define the schema. If you look at the schema of all the events has been connected. Within one schema, you could design all the events and then upload into data cloud. Once it is done, so the one which I've told, the CDN, the content delivery network. So this is one of the script where you should be able to add into your website to collect all the CDN providing a content delivery to third-party sources. Once this is the integration guide, you can go and then look at all the details. The link which I've given you, so that contains all the details about how to connect and how to map it, the CDN script code, your source code, your website. So once this is done, you can go and then start creating a data source. Once you've done the data source, now the step 2 is like data specialist is going to create a data stream. You can click on data stream and then you can choose the respective fields and the events, and then you can go and then map the schema, the website data into your CDP typical data model. And then you can set up the flow of data into CDP, because you should know the behavior of the data from building data from your website to data cloud. So all the scripting has to go back and then add to your header of your websites, so that it automatically captures the events from each website and mobiles to capture into data cloud as well. So this is a complete interactions, the complete sitemap of JavaScript, which you can include multiple DOM elements, listeners to capture the send event attributes, and then put in interaction names. So you could just share the sitemap with your CDP, so that what it does is, I think this one thing I forgot to tell you. So at the time of websites, I think it's my bad. Just give me 1 second. I'll just add that. So in the time of websites, you have a concept of adding your data sitemap to your, let me show that. One thing which I forgot. So in the website especially, I shown you the schema, but I forgot to show you the sitemap. So here, so the person has to go and then upload a complete sitemap in a complete JSON structure. If you look at the sitemap, that what has been given by the developer. So this is the concept of JavaScript. So you'll give a file of a JS file. What you can do is you can go and then add the sitemap to your sitemap to your website events configuration in the real-time web events. This is one most important step. I forgot. Sorry for that. So the other elements are, so once you set up the flow website data into CDP, and the step 3 is to you complete the complete step. You upload the sitemap. Once you upload the sitemap, then you can see the ingestion of the data can be coming from your websites to your data cloud. And you always have a flexibility to download the sitemap, and you can replace the sitemap as well to add more number of interactions and as per the SDK code that what has been designed for websites. So this is a way that you can create a data streams. So the data streams which contains the profile data and engagement data. So you should design or define what kind of data that has been coming into your data cloud, whether this is an engagement or a profile. It's up to the design that what you have been defined. So the specialist is going to create a data stream with respect to the websites, identity data, behavioral data, party identification data, and this is a complete engagement data. So this is the anonymous one which you've told about. So the person has been landing into our website, and then we're capturing the device ID, event ID, order details, and a couple of interactions, right? And if a person really an anonymous user, the known user, so we have all the details. We look at all the details of the person with respect to device IDs are my identity, user identity, unique ID. If I'm talking about a high terms, device ID is the one which I can use as a identifier, and then I need to capture all my engagements. But if you look at your known user from one object to another object, because for every object inside my sitemap, what I'm doing is, it's always a best practice to capture the identity or the interaction name of identity, because then you have to pass the device ID to every table, whatever the events that has been coming into your system of record. So that system of record, you have to pass device ID across like relation, like you have to pass the device ID to all the events. Then only you can be able to identify who's the person and what the person has been doing for all the interactions. That's most important, the device ID. And if a person wanted to leverage email, I think you leverage the email, but make sure you should capture the email across all the interactions as well. But I always recommend for data cloud, let's leverage the device ID, because that is the one where we can get a number, an ID which will be generated by the system. So it's easy for everyone. So if you look at the entire thing has been related to mobile events and the web events, engagement events is the one which is related to an individual. The same table related to your party identifier, because you look at your device ID and you look at the individual ID inside your data cloud has been common, because you're designing a data model. You have to design in such a way that it should be more tangible. The same thing you can see here: contact point email, contact point phone. So when you do mapping, the individual ID has to be mapped with the respective device ID. Individual ID has to map with the contact point email ID and the contact point phone ID and the party ID as well. So that's the whole structure inside your data cloud. And when you look at your complete schema of the data model, the individual ID has been in relation to contact point email, phone, party, and an engagement events as well. So this is the underlying orchestration that is recommended by data cloud in order to map your mobile and web events with data cloud. So there are some of resources where I would recommend to go and then look at the developer documentation for you to see the interactions SDK and the ready-made sitemaps scripts available. And then if anyone interested to see the personalization developer documentation, and you can go and then look into your personalization documentation as well, because it's exactly the same, nothing much. The code, the concept, the sitemap concept, the view event, orchestration, everything is common. It's exactly the same, nothing else. So that's all for today's session. So if any questions, I'm happy to help you out. Thank you. To map the data, the two fields should be of the same data type. If you give the data type wrong, means not matching with the standard data model, it's possible to change the data type of the field after ingesting the data. So two things, Anita. So standard fields, you can't able to change the data type. But for if you want to, as I told, standard data model, you can't able to change the data type. If you want to create anything, create a new field under the standard data model and then map the respective fields to the source field. Let's take an example. I have a phone number, which is the data type of phone, and then in the source data cloud database objects, you don't have any phone field or something in the respective table. Then what you can do is you can go and then create a phone field with the respective phone data type and then map it with so some data types which are not supported to map with the data cloud. So there are some. In that case, what you can do is you can create a custom field and then design the same data type and then map it with source fields. Thank you. Any questions? I'm happy to help you out. And thank you for joining again. So we have a session tomorrow with Vishal, Marketing Cloud. The session would be deployment, how you can deploy your Marketing Cloud code from one business unit to another business unit. So all the assets. If you want to deploy Automation Studio, email templates, and your complete cloud pages and everything to one business unit to another business unit. So this packaging tool will help you out to deploy it from one business unit to another business unit. So you can please feel free to join us, and then you can learn the really good tool in Marketing Cloud or deployment concept. Thank you. If any questions, I'll help you out, or else thank you. I'll just stop.